Hey everyone, it's me, Carolyn Page, for the Aether Hub, bringing you the first in what we hope will be a long-running series here on the channel, Commander Deck Techs. Whoa, 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 whoa! This series will have a nice twist to it, though. The decks presented on the Aether Hub will all come from fellow community members. We'll be highlighting other channels and personalities in the community the best way we know how, by partnering with them on Commander decks. We think by showing off their Commander decks, you'll get a good sense of who they are in the Magic community online. We all know our personalities shine through the decks we play. Little bit about our current Patreon goals. We're trying to record a full Magic novel, audiobook style, with all the cool voices.
And all the goblin voices.
Maybe that one won't make the cut. Anyways, that's our Patreon goal. It takes a lot of time. It takes some money to do. So please join our Patreon and help support that. All right, a little bit of my personal background with Commander. It's the format I learned to play Magic through. It's my favorite format. As a Vorthos fan, you can't really get any more flavorful, in my opinion, than Commander. My favorite Commander, that Gitrog monster. I just love him to pieces. I also play Samit. I'm working on a Sphinx deck right now. It's in the works. It's doing okay with Sharam the Hegemon. I just love Commander. I play about once a week with a play group, and it's just the most fun. So I'm very, very, very excited to really get into the nuts and bolts of how some different Commander decks work. For our first installment of Community Commander, we have a deck by Kitchentable Commander. The name says it all. They have a YouTube channel centered around everyone's favorite casual format, which you can find linked in the description below. Make sure you check them out. They're awesome. What they've cooked up for this video is a deck that utilizes the newest card for the Parun of the Izzet League, Niv-Mizzet Parun. As we are a lore channel mostly, it would be irresponsible to get into the deck without first giving you a little backstory of the commander itself. So here is a quick lesson on the history of Niv-Mizzet Parun. Niv-Mizzet is probably the smartest being on the plane of Ravnica. Not only is he ancient with an unmatched intellect, the dragon also happens to be the founder of the Izzet League, literally the academics of Ravnica. Niv-Mizzet always tries to be a few steps ahead of everyone, understanding motivations and intentions well before they come to the surface. This has served him well as Guildmaster of the Izzet, especially as the other guilds have regularly broken guild pacts, magical or otherwise, in attempts to conquer Ravnica. In the past, Niv-Mizzet was known for his long list of world-changing inventions and discovery of a strong, malleable metal known as Mizzium. Mizzium, fun to say. In more recent years, the dragon has had to contend with young upstarts and planeswalkers, whose existence seems to still be unknown to Niv-Mizzet. It was he who discovered the implicit maze designed by Azor, the grand architect of Ravnica's political and guild system. You may remember him from Ixalan. This kicked off the dragon's maze set, the end to the return to Ravnica block. But now, those second in command, the ambitious Ral Zarek, seems to have forced the dragon out, thanks to his new ally, the dragon planeswalker Nico Bolas. Hate to see dragon-on-dragon violence. In exchange for Ral's help in Bolas's plot to conquer Ravnica, either knowingly or unknowingly, they find that Niv-Mizzet has gone missing. The Izzet now fully under control of Ral Zarek, but the Parun isn't entirely out. He sits and ponders his next move. And with that, let's get right into the actual deck, built around our commander Niv-Mizzet Parun. Let's start with the commander himself. For 3 blue and 3 red mana, he's a 5/5 flying dragon wizard that can't be countered. Sweet, already sweet. Whenever you draw a card, he deals 1 damage to any target. Gross. And whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. Also gross. To be clear, this ability counts both you and your opponents casting instants and sorceries. That's amazing! Your opponent casts a spell, and you get to draw into a possible answer. The strategy here is clear. Draw cards, cast spells, win games. Kitchentable Commander built with that in mind. Obviously, we want to cast a ton of instants and sorceries to take advantage of Niv-Mizzet's abilities. So we want to be as mana efficient as possible. To that end, we've included a bunch of cards to help reduce the cost. Cards like Jace's Sanctum, Baral, Chief of Compliance, yummy, Goblin Electromancer, and Mizzix of the Magnus, which I'm personally considering for my next commander, all reduce the cost of instants and sorceries by 1 generic mana. Mizzix reduces it by an ever decreasing amount based on the number of experience counters you have. Ooh, he's going to be a sweet commander for me. Curious Homunculus and Vodalian Arcanist act like mana ramp for instants and sorceries. The Homunculus has the added bonus of reducing the cost of spells after it flips, which won't be hard given how many spells we'll be casting. Amazing. Let's sling some spells. Niv-Mizzet's ability to refill your hand every time a player casts an instant or sorcery is nice, but we might need a little extra card draw from time to time. And in a game like Commander where, if you play like I do, games can last for 4 hours, you're gonna want the card draw. That's why we've included Brainstorm, Keep Watch, and Obsessive Search. With Niv-Mizzet's second ability, Brainstorm draws you 4 cards. With the first ability, it deals 4 damage to any target. Not bad for 1 mana. Keep Watch draws you cards for each attacking creature, getting you answers and dealing damage. Playing against a token deck, this could turn out to be a one-sided board wipe. So sweet. Obsessive Search is great to get you a card at instant speed, either by casting it normally or by discarding it to madness. Always nice to have. I love that mechanic. Have a card in your hand that just isn't going to be good for a couple of turns or that your opponent wants to get rid of? Latinam's Legacy is here to fix that. Take that card and shuffle it into your library, then draw 2 cards to replace it at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. It's a bit spiteful, but the Izzet would rather you don't destroy their toys before they have a chance to do it themselves. Oh, and just in case we're about to deck ourselves, we've included Elixir of Immortality. You're welcome. With all the cards we're going to be drawing, we need to find a way to keep all of them within our grasp. So to do that, we've got the usual suspects, Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower, with the often forgotten Spellbook. All of these give you no maximum hand size, which will definitely come in handy. I love that. Oh man, I love no maximum hand size. So sweet in Commander. So sweet. Our removal package is a bit weird, but such is the nature of the Izzet. We'll start with counter magic. We have Negate, Grip of Amnesia, Disallow, Classic, Ionize, Counterflux, and Rewind. Negate for non-creature spells, Grip of Amnesia to make your opponent choose if they prefer having a graveyard or having their spell resolve. Disallow for spells, activated or triggered abilities. Ionize to really drive home how much you didn't like what your opponent just tried to do. Counterflux for when you really need to make sure a spell doesn't resolve. And Rewind because a free spell is a free spell. Next up, we have bounce spells, pretty much a must in any blue deck, including Blink of an Eye and Commit to Memory. Blink of an Eye has the added bonus of being able to kick it to draw a card and trigger Niv-Mizzet's ability. Commit puts the spell or non-land permanent second from the top of their owner's library. Memory has each player shuffle their hand and graveyard back into their library and draw 7 cards. This is another great way to keep yourself from losing to mill and getting lots of draw triggers for Niv-Mizzet. What commander deck would be complete without a couple board wipes? Not this one. We've got Aetherize as a one-sided board wipe, bouncing all attacking creatures to their owner's hands, making token decks collectively shiver. Looking at you, current incarnation of Brago, my chief nemesis deck. Bonus here is that depending on how many creatures you bounce, it could even force your opponent to discard. Very sweet. Our only other board wipe is Blasphemous Act. I mean, it's usually a 1-mana board wipe, so it's not like it even needs justification. Our spot removal is a bit more varied with Beacon Bolt, Electrolyze, Lightning Strike, and Shock. Beacon Bolt to kill pretty much anything, and with Jumpstart you effectively have a second copy, another sweet mechanic from the newest set. Electrolyze can do the last couple points of damage to finish off a big blocker, or maybe even your opponent. It's always nice to kill someone right to the face. And it draws you a card. Lightning Strike and Shock let you target planeswalkers if you need to. Fateful Showdown deals damage to a creature equal to the number of cards in your hand, then you discard and draw that many cards. Fateful Showdown also fuels Beacon Bolt and triggers Niv-Mizzet's ability. Extra sweet. Sentinel Tower deals damage to any target equal to 1 plus the number of instant and sorcery spells cast this turn. Good thing this isn't Storm. Oh wait. And last is Smash. 2 and a red to destroy an artifact and deal 1 damage. Draw a card. If you need more flexibility in your removal, we've got you covered with Abrade, Firemind's Research, Izzet Charm, Mystic Confluence, Invoke the Firemind, and Expansion Explosion. Abrade can get rid of an annoying artifact or creature. Firemind's Research helps you draw cards to trigger Niv-Mizzet's ability or deal 5 damage to any target. Izzet Charm is just an all-star, draws you cards, counter spells, and deals damage. Mystic Confluence, objectively better than Izzet Charm, bounces a creature, counters a spell even harder, or draws a card. And then you do any of them 2 more times. It's a little more expensive, but the fact that you can use all 3 modes makes it totally worth it. Invoke the Firemind lets you deal massive damage or draw massive amounts of cards. So basically deal massive damage. And finally, Expansion Explosion to copy an instant or sorcery, or to deal damage and draw cards. And what's more is it than having cards that do weird things? It's definitely one of my favorite parts about playing this color combo. Cards like Ignorant Bliss, Leap, Shadow Rift, and Epic Experiment. Ignorant Bliss helps you keep your hand a secret if someone tries to probe or peek. It also replaces itself and triggers Niv-Mizzet. Leap gives a creature flying and also draws you a card, again triggering Niv-Mizzet. Shadow Rift gives a creature shadow, but it also draws you a card. I'm sensing a theme. And Epic Experiment exiles cards from the top of your library and lets you cast instants and sorceries from those for free. That's amazing. Anything you end up not casting goes into your graveyard. Easy peasy. Speaking of free spells, we have some creatures that can do that trick too. Creatures like Omnispell Adept, Izzet Chemister, and Wildfire Eternal. While I know that Omnispell Adept and Izzet Chemister aren't technically free, they still give us significant cost reductions. Wildfire Eternal is the best at forcing your opponents to make a hard choice. Do they take 4 damage from Afflict, or do they let you get 1 damage in and have you cast an instant or sorcery for free? They'll probably take the 4 damage, but it's a great way to finish them off at the end of the game. The next few creatures aren't free, but they sure are cheap. Blister Coil Weird and Curse Catcher. The Weird gets bigger the more instants and sorceries you cast, and Curse Catcher can counter a spell. For early blockers, we have Electrostatic Field, amazing, and Thing in the Ice, a personal favorite of mine. I love a good horror. The field deals damage to each opponent every time you cast an instant or sorcery, and after you've done that a couple times, Thing in the Ice will flip and wipe the board of non-horror creatures, becoming a 7/8 when it does. Enigma Drake, Spellheart Chimera, and Weed Dragonauts become bigger flying threats the more spells you cast. Speaking of flying threats, we have Talrand Sky Summoner to keep generating more. He's a very popular commander himself, and he fits perfectly in with this deck. Sphinx of the Final Word to keep all your instants and sorceries safe from counterspells, and Niv-Mizzet the Firemind to draw cards and deal that sweet, sweet commander damage. Gutter Snipe gets us another source of damage to all opponents when we cast instants and sorceries. Think of Gutter Snipe as an upgraded Electrostatic Field. Melek Izzet Paragon may let your opponents know what you've got on the top of your deck, but giving you access to an additional card and the ability to copy it is a fair trade-off. And finally, given that the majority of our creatures are wizards, we've included Adeliz the Cinderwind to give a boost to all wizards whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. Pretty nice, pretty nice. If that weren't enough, we have Jaya Ballard and Ral Izzet Viceroy making appearances. Jaya gives us extra mana to cast our instants and sorceries with her first ability, and lets us discard and draw that many cards with her second. Her ultimate basically gives all your instants and sorceries flashback. Very sweet. Ral, on the other hand, gets us cards in hand and in the graveyard with his first ability, and deals damage to a creature based on the number of instants and sorceries in the graveyard with the second. His ultimate gives us an emblem that deals 4 damage to any target whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, and then draws 2 cards. So nasty, so sweet. They both have strong synergies with Niv-Mizzet, and no matter which ability you choose, you'll be making the right choice. What a tight deck. Our land base is a little more complicated than normal because of how many mana symbols are in a lot of our spells. I've tried to keep it budget by avoiding the shocks and fetches, but I've still included other dual lands. Cascade Bluffs is the most expensive land we're running, but it's necessary given that it can make any combination of mana we might need to cast a spell. Of course, Izzet Guildgate, Izzet Boiler Works, Swiftwater Cliffs, Highland Lake, and Temple of Epiphany are included, as are both Izzet Cluestone and Izzet Signet. Evolving Wilds to get whichever color we might be missing. Don't worry, I didn't forget about Command Tower and Sol Ring. Add 18 islands and 11 mountains, and you have Niv-Mizzet Parun Commander deck that will be a force to be reckoned with. And at a price of only $110, I might add, which does seem like a little bit. But when you look at the collective cost of commander cards, it's worth it. That victory, so worth it. If you feel like upgrading the deck, there are some obvious choices. Making spells cheaper is always going to make this deck better, so think about adding Sapphire and Ruby medallions. Want to get any spell you might need? Add a Mystical Tutor. Want more ways to be able to cast cards from the graveyard? Past in Flames and Snapcaster Mage are your friends. Cryptic Command gives you so much flexibility for a very, very reasonable mana cost. Risk Factor is hilarious with Niv-Mizzet. Do they want to take 4 damage, or do they want to take 3 damage and let you draw 3? The Locust God is great for more token flyer generation, plus he can draw you a card with his own ability, plus he's just so nasty and disgusting. And since we'll be drawing lots of cards, I couldn't leave out Laboratory Maniac as an alternate win con. And that's going to do it for this Niv-Mizzet Parun Commander deck tech, brought to you by Kitchentable Commander. Remember, you can check them out on YouTube and their social media by following the links found in the video description. There you can also find all the information on the Aether Hub along with a full deck list. This sounds so nasty. I want to play Commander right now. I want to play right now. Seriously, any deck with Thing in the Ice I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I've been dreaming about building a Thing in the Ice Solemnity combo because Solemnity would flip Thing in the Ice right away, and that would be so gross. We want to know what you guys think about this first episode of the Community Commander series. Let us know in the comments and by leaving this video a like. If you're a content creator of any sort, please let us know if you have a Commander brew you'd like featured on the Hub. Drop us a line by following and sending us a DM on Twitter. That's at the Aether Hub. I just want to end this video by thanking our patrons in the Vorthos Army and those community members who make this such an awesome series. We really, really, really appreciate all of you. Remember, you too can join the Vorthos Army and get loads of exclusive perks, all while supporting the greatest Vorthos community on YouTube. Just check the link in the description below. We're about halfway to our goal of doing a full MTG novel audiobook for you guys, which is going to be so much fun. If you've listened to any of the Wizard stories that I've read audiobook style on this YouTube channel or on my own podcast, Magic the Gathering Story, narrated by Carolyn Page, you know that they're great stories. Wizard makes amazing content, and I just love doing all those crazy voices. We're almost halfway there with a goal, so check out the link, spread the word, let's get this done. Alrighty, this has been Carolyn Page for the Aether Hub, and we will catch you next time. Happy planeswalking. Thanks so much for watching our latest video here on the Aether Hub. Our channel only exists thanks to fans like you and those who've joined the Vorthos Army over in Patreon. Many thanks to our latest supporters, David Coulterman, Peter Jadalrab, Anton Thorne, Daniel Vincent, and Marcirio Pajeo. Welcome to the Vorthos Army! The same goes for all of the lore legends that you see in the credits, the supporters who make this channel possible. As always, thanks so much for watching today. I'm Carolyn Page, and you are the Vorthos Army.